Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Your Facility, Your Rules, Meet the Next Generation of ARC Facilities. There's no better person to present this today than you, John, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Indira, and welcome everybody. I appreciate you joining me today. Hopefully I've got some good stuff to walk you through and show you. Really the goal for today is I want to introduce this next generation of ARC facilities. This is a platform that we've launched just recently here this year. And I want to introduce it to all of you. And excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and start switching over my screen. Today I am doing my demonstration on an iPad, and I tend to do most of my demonstrations on the iPad, and the reason for that is we think of ourselves very much as a mobile platform, a mobile tool. This is about getting access to information where and when you need it. That is really fundamentally what we provide as a service overall. I'm going to go ahead and pop out of that PowerPoint. I'm going to go ahead and open my ARC Facilities app. So as I am walking you through this today, the first thing we're going to see in the platform is a list of all of the various locations that I have access to see. I've got 4 of them here. This may be, maybe you're a school district and you've got 50 of them. Maybe you're a hospital, you've got a single campus. It doesn't really matter. We can host as many of them as you need. They can be located wherever across the country or across town. It doesn't really make a difference. We can control access to each of these different sites. We can control different levels of access to each of these different sites. So if you've got different teams that support different locations, that kind of thing. One of the nice things that we've added to the platform recently, which is, really handy, is you can see we now have the address information included on these locations, on these campuses. And if I were to press and hold on here, I can very easily get to driving directions. So again, I'm on my mobile device. This works the same way on my phone as it does on my tablet. Makes it really quick and easy to get to that. Again, you think of a situation where maybe a school district or a county has got, locations all over town. You want to be able to quickly access that and navigate your way there. That's especially useful if you've got new team members or maybe somebody that is helping out that day and doesn't normally support a location. One other thing before I click off of this screen that I want to highlight is you'll notice these little green check marks on a couple of these campuses. What that check mark means is that this campus has been synchronized onto my device. The core critical information related to that campus has been synchronized down onto this iPad. And that has a couple of different benefits. First and foremost, it gives me a tremendous performance advantage over using mobile web pages, for instance. And you'll see that when I start to open up some of the documents and I start to flip through them. You'll see everything is very, very fast, very smooth, very easy to navigate. And that's because all of that information is local on the device. Now, the other benefit to that is related to kind of crisis management or emergency response. I want you to imagine a situation where maybe you've had a snowstorm or a hurricane or something like that, and your network is down, right? Maybe you don't have Wi-Fi. In this case, because these campuses are located on this, because the information is located on this iPad, I can still access this critical information. So if I'm trying to do, incident response, I've got the information that I need in order to do that. I can still find my shutoffs. I can still see where my emergency equipment is. I can still access these building plans and so forth. So that's really what I wanted to cover on this particular screen. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this Summit College Everett. And when I do that, I'm going to come to the campus dashboard. We've made some changes on this as well. And I'm talking about it that way because, like I said, we've made a platform upgrade this year. We've made a number of new changes. So if you guys are familiar with the platform, you'll see familiar stuff, but in different places. And I just kind of want to call out some of the things we've changed. One of them is this dashboard, which is now customizable individually. So for instance, I like to have my shutoffs, kind of top, I want to say front and center, though that's not technically accurate. I like to have it right up front though, because I feel like that's a really critical, important piece of information. I don't ever want to have to go digging for it. I like that button here. Maybe you don't. Maybe that's not something you have anything to do with. Maybe your role is to manage groundskeeping and you want to have something else here. You can move these buttons around. You can turn them on and off. You can put the things up here that matter to you. So like I said, I like to have shutoffs up there because I think it's a especially critical piece of information for incident response or kind of normal maintenance and so forth as well. Excuse me. I'm going to dive into each of these a little bit and give you kind of a high level overview of them. I'm going to start with shutoffs though, because like I said, I feel like that's a pretty critical one. So I'm going to tap on that. And here's again a new change that we've made in the platform, and that is we're now using these dynamic satellite view campus maps. So you can see this particular location. I've got 4 buildings in the platform here. They are highlighted, excuse me, but I can see my whole campus. And I can see that in a, kind of a semi-live environment, right? This is using the satellite mapping technology, and that allows me to see where these buildings are actually located on campus. To access information about any one of them, I can simply tap on it. Now, before I do also want to highlight that I have this card view if I prefer that. Maybe maybe I've got 60, 70, 100 buildings in there, and that satellite view maybe isn't as, easy to see, or maybe the satellite imagery isn't as up to date as I want. I can always come in and look at this card view as well to see the various buildings this way. Now, I personally prefer the satellite view. I'm going to jump back over to that, but I just wanted to call out that that is available. So now I'm going to open up Fountain Hall. And again, we're looking at shutoffs. And so I'm going to open up the first floor of Fountain Hall. And when I talk about shutoffs, what I mean are water, gas, and electric, and med gas, if it's a medical facility or a lab or something like that. So basically, all of your electrical panels, and I'll open one up here in a second, we'll take a look at that. For water and gas, really what we're looking for are the mains and the isolations. We don't map out necessarily every toilet and sink and that kind of thing. Those are kind of all assumed. But what I want you to see is, in the event that we've got isolation. So let's, take a look at this women's washroom here. You can see I've got a water shut off here. I've got a photo of it so I can see exactly what that looks like. These can be labeled as well. So this is a women's washroom isolation valve that's here. Excuse me. And this information is available to me here on this iPad. I can make updates to it if I need to. Let's say we install a new isolation or we add something. I can do that very easily on the platform, and that will instantly be shared across my entire team. Anybody that's got access to the platform will see that information. Excuse me, like I said, we've got water, gas, and electric. I'm going to go ahead and open up this electrical panel on the right-hand side here. Again, we take photos of these when we do this mapping. So typically what we'll try to capture is an interior and exterior photo of the panel. We like to make sure we capture that panel name up there, and we make that searchable as well. And then of course the panel schedule, so we can see exactly what the breakers control. This is good information, especially if you aren't on site at that time. So I want you to think about, maybe a critical scenario. It's a holiday weekend, or a holiday, something like that, middle of the night, an incident happens. Air handler is, having an issue, something catches on fire, whatever. You want to shut off power to a particular room. I want you to be able to have access to that information remotely. So you're at home, you're putting your slippers on, your boots on, you're about to go downstairs, get in the truck, drive to the office. Before you do that, though, you're talking to maybe the security guard on site. I want you to be able to guide them, right? You can take a look at that panel schedule, let them know what breaker they need to flip to shut off the power to that particular room. You could also, maybe send them a map, right? I want to show them where the panels are. I could text message or email this exact document off to them with just a couple of taps. So very quick, easy way to get to that information and to share it out with other people. Now, one of the other things that has become really important and useful is in the platform, not only do we have shutoff information, but very often we'll have information about assets, right? So we'll have information about, let's say, capital equipment. So maybe our air handlers or emergency assets, that kind of thing. We now have the ability to share that information and show that information on the same page. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my equipment here, because what I actually want to see in this case is, let's say, the air handler and that panel at the same time. So now I'm able to see both the air handler that's located in this space as well as the electrical panel that is likely the one that controls that particular unit. So I can see where those things are on the same map simultaneously. And again, I can share that out. So we've got some flexibility in terms of what we're looking at there. Again, I started on the shutoff map. I could just as easily have also started on my equipment map or my emergency equipment map. And I can easily now toggle between those from this screen. So I can just tap on equipment there, hit done, and it's going to switch me over. And now I'm on the capital equipment map for this particular building. Similarly, I can switch between buildings if I wanted to as well, right? I can tap on a different building and pick a different floor, and it will jump me over to a different floor and building information. So a quick, easy way to navigate my way around the shutoffs for that particular campus and buildings. So that's what I wanted to highlight with regard to shutoffs again, because I think that is a really critical component of the platform, and one that really helps having that information, having your entire team have access to that information and having it always current is one of those things that can really reduce risk in your organization and help potentially mitigate when something happens, right? If you the example I've always given is, a water leak that goes for 5 minutes is a bucket and a mop. It's not a big deal, but a water leak that goes for an hour could be massive building damage and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we want to prevent that. The same thing might be true of a gas leak, for instance. A small gas leak where you're able to turn it off right away. Maybe you have to open a window and clear the air a little bit, but maybe you're not closing down school for the day or evacuating that wing of a hospital or whatever it is whatever your structure is that you're managing. Okay, so that was shutoffs. That was one key piece that I wanted to show. I do want to walk you through some other key aspects of the platform. I'm going to take a look at building plans. This is a key component of ARC Facilities and what we host here. In this platform, again, I'm going to tap on building plans and I'm going to see that campus map. I'm going to go back to Fountain Hall. And I've got a couple of different ways that I can look at this information. You can see this should be familiar for those of you who've seen ARC Facilities in the past. A lot of this should be very familiar, but with a new look and faster access to this information. As I tap on as-built's list view, I'm going to see a listing of all of the different renovations that have happened in this building. When they happened, they're organized by date and by name of the renovation. You can see how many documents are in each one of these. I'm going to go ahead and just tap in, and then I'm going to open up this file A2 here. And on this, you can see this is kind of my cover sheet for this particular set of documents. It's a very old document, you can see. And one of the awesome things now, ARC Facilities has been using AI and machine learning for many, many years. And this is one of the kind of core areas where we've really leaned in and leveraged that technology. And so what I want you to see is I'm looking at this sheet index here. I've got all of these different sheets that are listed, what their name is, what they are. And if I want to access any one of these, all I need to do is just tap on it and it's going to take me right to that sheet. You'll see it jumped me right to sheet S8 when I tapped on that. Now, the same thing is true of the various construction callouts and so forth. All of those are also linked. I can also, if I want to, just swipe through these documents by tapping, by swiping my finger like I'm flipping through the pages of a book. And so I can quickly and easily access. Remember early on when we started this session, I mentioned about having all of this information local and why that's so much from a performance standpoint, why that's so much better than having mobile web pages. None of these documents are having to download. I'm able to just quickly swipe through them super fast. I can find exactly what I need. And again, if I need to, I can share this information out with just a couple of taps. I can also, if I need to, mark up on these documents, right? If I needed to, share this out, this is the room we were discussing. I can mark that up on the document and then go ahead and share that out. And whoever I'm sending it to will get a copy of this document with that markup. I could even zoom in on it and send just this section of the sheet if I wanted to. So a lot of flexibility there and a great way to quickly share information with your partners, with your vendors, with whoever you might want. All right, that is the list view portion of this of the building plans that are in here, but we do also have what we call a map view. And this is especially powerful for buildings where we have a lot of renovations. And in this case, when I'm looking at that, for every floor, for every building in the platform, we create one of these map views. And what I'm showing you here is all of the renovations that have happened that have touched this particular floor and where on the floor they've touched. So if you think of your current plan room, maybe you've got stacks of paper somewhere, you've got rolls of drawings in a cubby, and you're trying to figure out exactly which document you need, which set of plans you need. In this particular case, I can quickly come in, look at this floor plan, and I can see if I'm working in this part of the building, it's very likely this is the set of documents I'm going to need, right? The ones from 2006, which was the last time that we renovated that particular part of the building. And to get there, I'm just going to go ahead and tap on it, and it's going to take me right to that particular set of construction documents. So very fast way to get to the set of documents that I need. And to narrow down, if you've got a plan room filled with thousands of documents, you can kind of very quickly get down to the ones that you need, and much faster to find that information here digitally when it's organized under that map view. So those were a couple of things I wanted to show with regard to the excuse me, the building plans and how we organize that information. We do the same kind of thing here under emergency. So again, I'm going to have my campus map. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the building. And now I've got my emergency dashboard with all of the information I might need to prepare for or respond to some kind of a critical event, right? I like to think of this as hopefully more of a prep tool. We like to avoid those critical events, but in the event they happen, it's also a great resource to have. And again, a lot of this information is available when you're offline, not just when you've got access to internet access. So if I look at what kind of information is available, I've got a pretty solid collection. First off, I'm going to have for each building, I'm going to have an emergency contact list, because that information may change depending on which building it is. The chemistry lab is on fire. You probably want to have the head of the chemistry department there. You want to reach out to them. Whereas if some other building is on fire, or there's an incident, you may want a different set of contacts. So we can have different sets of contacts here in the platform. We can quickly access that information from this dashboard. We do also map out all of your emergency equipment. So that's going to be all of your fire extinguishers, your AEDs, your fire alarms, fire alarm poles, emergency lights, exit signs, all of that kind of stuff. This is really, really helpful when it comes time for those annual inspections, right? Every year you've got to go through and inspect the fire extinguishers, make sure they're still current and still functioning and so forth. You got to do that for a lot of your other emergency assets as well. And one of the things I've noticed in working with our customers is that this stuff moves around, right? You do minor renovations, people reorganize their office or this part of the building or whatever, fire extinguisher gets moved from this wall to that wall. And it's very easy for that stuff to get missed if you don't have a good layout, a good map of this. And this is, again, a great situation where you're able to share this information out with a partner, right? Maybe you've got a vendor that is doing these fire extinguisher inspections. So let me just bring those up, put them on the map, and quickly share that document out to that vendor. Now they know exactly where those things are. They can go find them, make sure every one of them is getting inspected as it's as they're supposed to be. So emergency equipment, again, all of that stuff, mapped out, organized. We do also have here in the platform basically a repository where you can keep kind of your emergency documents. If you think about this as a tool that your emergency response team may have in hand, during a critical event, right? Whether we're dealing with an active shooter, a bomb threat, an earthquake, a hurricane, whatever that is, you've likely got plans for that, documents that explain what are you supposed to do in the event of these different situations. Let's have that information available, and again, on a mobile device, wherever you are, whenever you need it. And again, available on those campuses that are synced locally, even in the event that you don't have network access. So there's a variety of other resources. I'm not going to go through all of them today, but we may have life safety documents in here. We may have other maps, other resources, SDS information. Shutoffs are again here for you. And again, this is a customizable dashboard. I can add my own things to it. I can add different things to it. I can move buttons around, rearrange them, and so forth based on my particular need. Okay, so that is some emergency information that I wanted to walk through. And I've got a couple more things before I wrap up today that I want to highlight. I've talked about how we can map out shutoffs, how we map out emergency equipment. We do the same thing for your capital equipment, right? So all of the air handlers, pumps, those kinds of things. We do that under this equipment module or our O&M module. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And what we've done is kind of collected all of that information here in this one location. So as before, I've got my equipment maps. If I tap on that, I've got my campus map, my floor, and again, I'm going to see all of that, where the air handlers are, where the pumps are, those kinds of things. So all of that, we've kind of taken a look at that. But I do also have other information here. So if we've scanned and uploaded all of the O&M documents, right, we've taken those binders, we've scanned them, we've uploaded them, all of those documents can be contained here in this folder. This information is all searchable. I've got a search down here. All of these documents get OCR'd, so I can quickly find information in them, and I can quickly navigate my way to any of these documents. But even better than that really is when those documents get linked to the equipment itself. And that's an area that I'm going to show you here. So we've got that equipment on a map, we've got O&Ms, but we do also have this equipment list. Excuse me, when I open this up, I can see all of the capital equipment I've got in this building. I'm going to go ahead and just open up this air handler at the top. We'll take a look at that. And when we add this information to the platform, there's a few things that we're doing that make this a little bit different, a little bit more robust. This is information that should augment and help you to work alongside your CMMS, right? I know every one of you people on this call probably already has a CMMS that has some similar information in it. And when I say similar, what I mean is we have the obvious identification information, and there's, make, model, serial number, that kind of stuff in both platforms. But really the way to think about what we're offering here versus what you're doing in your CMMS, we're not trying to step on that space. Those are great tools, do some great things for you. But what we're offering you here is how to do the tasks that you need to do and where to do them. And what I mean by that is, if you think about a CMMS, it tells you what to do and when to do it, right? It's time to do the preventative maintenance on this air handler. Great, we know that. Where is this air handler, right? And how do I do that? So if I look at this particular unit, I've got that basic identifying information I was talking about, right? What's the name? Is there a description for it? Manufacturer, serial number, that kind of thing. If I've got warranty information, we can have that in here. When does the warranty expire? Can be really helpful information to avoid voiding it potentially, or, spending money on things you don't need to be spending money on if somebody else is responsible for that repair. I mentioned that we have location information. So if it's time to do the PM on this air handler, let's find out where it is, right? It's in Fountain Hall, it's on the first floor, it's in mechanical room 135. And if I tap on this icon, it's actually going to show me on a map exactly where that particular unit is. That can be really helpful time-saving information, especially in bigger organizations or very complex organizations. You imagine doing this on a college campus, for instance, where maybe you've got 35 buildings and air handlers all over the place. It can be really helpful to have that information so you know where it is, how to find it, especially for the stuff that's not in a normal mechanical room. Maybe it's in a closet, maybe it's behind a in a strange place. That can be really helpful, and again, especially for new team members. Some other information that's available on the screen that can be really helpful. I mentioned the O&M documents themselves. We can connect those here. So in this particular case, you can see I've connected the manual to it. So if it's time to do the service on this particular unit, I can bring that document up and I can follow the manufacturer's instructions right from my iPad while I'm standing in front of that unit. I've got that information with me, right? I don't have to go back to the facilities office to get it. I don't have to find it in a binder. It's right here on the platform in my hand. I also have the ability to add additional information. Maybe there's some commonly replaceable parts that I want to have logged here and associated with it. I can include that information in here. You can see I've got detailed information about the part, where we buy it from, information that I need a PO for that. I've got a link here that'll take me right to the order page for it. So again, I can have that information available to me. I can also have useful links, maybe a link that shows me how to do the maintenance on this particular unit, or a link to my CMMS system, right? I can bounce over to that CMMS system, close the ticket, update the ticket, do whatever I need to do there. Similarly, we can provide the same kinds of links to come back into our platform from that CMMS system. So you can easily jump between the two platforms and fill out whatever information you want there. Now, one last thing that I'm going to show here under equipment is we do also have the ability to complete fillable forms. And so what I mean by that is maybe I want to actually not just mark that I did the PM, but I actually want to log the steps. I actually want to fill out the form that shows that I checked the unit for noise and vibration. I cleaned the filters and so forth. You can see I've already started this one here. I'll go ahead and finish it. I've now done all of those things. I can sign this and go ahead and hit done, and then I can submit this, excuse me, and it will go into the log of all of the maintenance I've done on this particular unit. So all of that is there. It shows who did it, when they did it, and that information is again viewable. I can just open that up and access the details of that. Now, maybe you do that in your CMMS, and if you do, that's cool. If not, we've got you covered. We've got a place for that here. I can do that for maintenance forms. I can do that for inspection forms. I can do that for all kinds of any kind of fillable form like that you want to tie to this piece of equipment. Those forms can also be used for other things. Now, I'm showing it here associated with this piece of equipment, but I could also use those forms more generically, right? I don't have to tie them to a piece of equipment. I could associate them with a particular building location. I could just have the form. Maybe it's we have a customer that uses it to walk for their security team. They do rounds every day where they go through and they check certain things. So it's not associated to even a particular building. It's just associated to the campus. And so we keep that under our forms module here. And every day they come in, fill that form out as they're walking around the facility to show that they've checked all of those various things they're supposed to check. Now, the last thing I wanted to show this morning before I wrap up is some customization that's allowed in the platform. And that is, I've shown some awesome things that we keep track of in the platform, right? We've got shutoffs, we've got emergency equipment, we've got capital equipment, but our platform is flexible and it has the ability to store a lot of other information in it as well. I'm going to go back to Fountain Hall here, and you can see I added this extra little widget. I mentioned that this dashboard is customizable. I added this extra little widget that takes me to artwork. And that's just a shortcut. I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to go the long way to get there. I'm going to go through this other maps and resources, which is where this is a shortcut to something in that folder. And you can see I've got a few different folders here. So that shortcut takes me right to the artwork map. But I wanted to show it because I wanted to show that inside this folder, you can actually have maps to whatever you may need or want. And this is where we see a tremendous amount of flexibility and variation from our customers. I'm going to show you this custom artwork map. So in this particular case, I've got a map. It's showing me where I've placed artwork throughout the building. So if I open up any one of these pins, you can see I've got, a big piece of artwork on the wall here. I can flip through the photos of that. I can store information about that particular unit under the description. And you can see I've got a variety of different pieces of art, around this particular building. And I've got them all logged that way. Now, we could do that for artwork. We can do that for a lot of different things. If I just create a new pin, I'll just drop one here in the middle of the screen. You can see we have about 150 different types of things that we can keep track of. We've got pins or icons for about 150 different things. But I want you to notice the ones that are slightly different color. The ones that are slightly different color, these are customized pins. These are things that other people have created. Maybe we didn't have a pin for that particular thing, and they wanted to use a different name for it, or they wanted to have a special color for it. We do have the ability in the platform to create these customized pins. So for instance, if I wanted to maybe keep track of planter beds, I can go ahead and type that, and the system instantly recognizes I don't have an icon for that. It's not something that is in the system currently. And so it's saying, do you want to create one? So I can do that. I can pick a color, right? I'm going to go with green. That makes sense for a planter bed. I can change these letters. I think PB works fine for this, but I can put up to 3 different letters in here. If I wanted something different, I could do that. And then once I've created that icon, I can go ahead and hit save. I'm going to just add this. I could add a photo of that. I could add information about it. I'm just going to hit save and let's put that into the grounds category. And I'll drop that here. Now, it's a little weird to put a grounds pin inside a building, but we'll go with it for the moment. So now I'm showing that I've got this particular planter bed here. And again, I can attach photos. I can attach other information to it. But this information is instantly shared with my entire team, right? So everybody has this information now. And anybody on my team that has access to this also has the ability to add additional ones. So maybe I want to put information about how often this planter needs to be, how it needs to be maintained, what kind of fertilizer gets used here, how often it needs to be watered, that kind of thing. I can collect all of that kind of information on this pin, share it with the entire team. We've got organizations that do that for planter beds, they do it for artwork, they do that for custodial information, right? What supplies need to be updated in this particular location. So a lot of different options with regard to these customized pins, kind of whatever you need can be mapped this way. And we can map them inside the buildings, and we can also map them outside the buildings on campus maps as well. So that can be really useful for your team to kind of keep track of whatever might be important to you and your organization. So that is kind of my high-level overview of the platform that I wanted to provide today. Again, just updated, fresh application. We're leaning into a lot of the newer technologies to really streamline access to this. We want to make sure that it's super fast to access this information, especially that critical information. Make it easier for your team to get where and when they need it. As we develop the software, it's always important to us that we make sure that it's easy and that people in the field can do it, right? I can access this information on my iPad. I can access it on my phone. I, of course, can access it on the web as well, but we prioritize making it simple and easy to access in the field. As we continue to develop the application, those are the areas we're going to focus on. We'll start to take advantage of some of this next generation AI in the platform to be able to then predict what kinds of information people need and start to develop that and deliver it into the hands of team members in the field where and when they need it. So that is my brief tour for the day. I just want to those are kind of the highlights that I wanted to show, but I do want to pause here and see if there are any questions. And Dara, I'm going to turn to you and let me know if anybody's asked any questions or anything they want to know more about, or any items I should be showing.
Yep. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. I have a question here. What about adding custom icons without the letters, but an image?
That is a great question. So at the moment, we're offering just the 3 letters in there and the colors. I can change those colors as you saw. We are looking to see whether it may be possible in the future to add iconography in there. That gets a little bit complex because you have to figure out how we're uploading icons and so forth. But it is something that we are exploring the possibility to look at in the future.
Awesome. All right. Another question here is, what happens if I don't have Wi-Fi or cell service? Can I still access the critical building information?
You can, yep. And so let me just run back to this main campus map that I talked about at the beginning here. So as I mentioned, I can synchronize the information onto this device for each one of these campuses. So if I press and hold on here, you'll see there's an option called Sync Campus. And what that will do when I click that is it will synchronize the information for that campus onto this particular iPad. You can see it's downloading that onto the device now. And so when I do that, basically all of the underlying documents are then loaded onto this device. They're downloaded onto this device. Once that's done, really the only thing that you need the internet connection for is some of the dynamic data. So for instance, filling out a form, obviously you can fill out the form while you're offline, but it won't connect to the cloud and share it to the other users until the next time it connects. Some of the more dynamic information that's associated with the pins is only available when you're connected online. But the pins themselves, the underlying floor plans and so forth, all of that kind of critical information is available offline, even in the event that, like I said, you lose Wi-Fi or cellular service.
Awesome. Very convenient. Next question I have is, the data scanned files only, or do you field verify as-builts?
So the as-builts that we put in here, we get from you. Now, when we talk about field verification, The aspects of field verification that we will do is we will field verify where the assets are, right? When we come out, our team will come on site, walk the site, and go through and map out where they find air handlers, where they find pumps, where they find emergency equipment, where they find shutoffs, and so forth. So that aspect is field verified. We're not, with the regard to the as-built documents themselves, we're not going to check them against the building and take measurements, that kind of thing. We're going to trust that your as-builts are correct. We'll get those from you. What we will do, though, that can be tremendously helpful is very often, especially for old buildings, you'll have a lot of as-built documents, renovation after renovation after renovation. And as we find with most of our customers, not only do you have lots of those documents, you may have duplicates of that information, you may have some digital, some paper, and so forth. And our team and our software basically puts all of that together into one master collection of building information, and it organizes it and sorts it and removes those duplicates and basically makes it usable. What we've found a lot of times is you'll have maybe all of the renovations that you did before 2000 are on paper and they're in cubby holes, but then the stuff after that, some of it's on CD-ROM, some of it's on USB drive, some of it has been downloaded from that was direct off of a site somewhere, and it's just stored on a shared drive in your network. The problem is if you're looking for a document, you don't know where to look, you don't even know what system to go to, you don't even know what place to go to. Once everything goes into ARC Facilities, we do that work and organize all of that information for you. So you know where you need to go. One place. You come into ARC Facilities, it's all there, it's all organized, the duplicates are gone. The layering is done for you in the map view and so forth.
Great, thanks, John. Next question I have is, we have locations in multiple states. Can I see all sites, and or can I limit who can access specific sites?
Yes and yes. So on the screen that I'm showing right now, the campus collection, in fact, I have, this is just a demo account, but you can see I've picked locations in various parts of the country, some in Colorado, some in Washington, some in Fremont, California. The system it works anywhere here in the United States, and we do have the ability to limit access. So I could share access to this particular campus to my Washington team. I could share this access to my Northern California team, and this access to my Colorado team, or I could have somebody who's maybe has access to all three of them. That is all absolutely controllable.
All right, next question. If someone in your facility is not listed within the system, can you, while in the field, email or send a message to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so a couple of things there. I mentioned earlier, in fact, let me just jump into this campus. So there are a few things that you can do, right? You can share out a document, and I showed that a few different times. When I was looking at the shutoff map, for instance, I'll show that real quick again. I've got all of these shutoffs. If I want to share that, I can go ahead and share the document, and then it's going to say, do you want to share the PDF? Do I want to share it with my markups? Do I want to just share a clipping of it? And I can text message or I can email that out. But there is actually a lot more information in the system that is shareable. So if I come back here, and let's say I'm taking a look at a piece of equipment that's here in the system. So let's go back to that air handler we looked at earlier. If I wanted to, I can actually send this link, again, using text message or email. And what it will do is send a hyperlink to the recipient. And that link will give a certain level of access. And actually, I did this earlier just so I'd have it handy. I forgot to show it, but I'm going to just, if I click that link, I'm in the platform, so I'm now showing what it would look like if a user who did not have the app clicked that link. You'll notice it'll show in a web page, right? It just opens up this web page here, and it shows the basic information about this particular unit. They can't edit anything from here, but they can see things like make, model, and serial number. They can see where the unit is. This can be really helpful if you're working with a vendor, for instance, right? You've got a vendor that's coming on site to do service on this particular air handler. You could send them the link to that particular air handler, and when they get it, it'll open this web page and it'll show them this basic information. So they'll have the make, model, serial number. They'll have access to the manual. They can click on the map to see where it is, but they can't fill out your inspection forms. They can't edit any of this stuff. They can't do any of those things, but they can view access to the basic information about that piece of equipment. Hopefully that answers the question.
Great, thanks. I have a question here. Can I see the shutoffs maps and the equipment maps at the same time?
Yes, you can put those onto the same map, absolutely. So if I open this equipment map, so I'm looking at the equipment, I can then turn on additional pin types and I can turn on the shutoffs. So now I can show both the shutoffs and the equipment. I could do the same thing for any of the other categories as well. If I wanted to turn on the emergency equipment, or any of the other categories of pins can also be enabled.
Right. Another question here. How long does it take to map all this stuff out? Who does it? It seems like a lot of work and I have limited resources.
That is a very good question, and one we get frequently from our customers. We are very aware that implementing a new solution like this is a heavy lift, right? It's a big deal for a lot of organizations. And the reason you're on this webinar is probably you don't have a lot of time to do those kinds of things, right? That's this is a productivity tool, but it's only productive if the information in it is complete and good. And how do you get that in there? Great question. The short answer is we do that heavy lifting for you. As part of our implementation, we actually will do all of the document scanning. We will collect all of those digital documents. We do all of that organization. We build that out. We load all of it into the platform. We deliver that to you. When we do that, we also send team members physically on site. And I think this is one of the unique things about our offering, is that we pair this fantastic technology with fantastic team members, right? We send out experienced field teams to your location. They will walk the site. They'll walk the site, depending on your needs, maybe with you or maybe separately from you, depends on your needs and your security situation. We obviously respect whatever your requirements are there. But these teams know how to identify this equipment. They will photo capture and field verify. They'll capture the make, model, serial number. They'll get the photos. They will put QR code stickers onto the capital equipment, so you can access that information just by scanning a QR code on there. They will map that out and document that for you. So what you end up with is field verified equipment, and a well-organized set of documents. This becomes kind of a foundation for everything else that you're doing, right? If you are supporting other departments, whether that's maybe your space planning department or your construction department or whatever, anybody that needs this information about the building, you then have all of this and can share it out to them. Our team does the work to get that set up for you. In most cases, that implementation is 90, 120 days or so, somewhere in that range. Depends on how big the organization is, how many buildings we're doing, that kind of thing. But usually 120 days we're done and handing it off to your team. And from that point, your team is able to run with it. We will assist you with updates. So let's say you renovate your building a year later, that's okay. You just send us those documents and we will update them into the platform, fit them into that master collection of information, update the maps and so forth.
Great. Just a couple more questions here. How secure is the data and who controls the access?
Okay, so our platform is hosted in the cloud. We are ISO 27001 certified. That's the ISO standard for data security. It's the same standards that your bank or all of the cloud companies that you work with are hopefully following. So we meet all of those requirements with regard to data security. It is encrypted. The data is encrypted when it's sitting idle or when it is in transit. So you're kind of always protected there. It's always encrypted data. In terms of who controls access, that can be handled a couple of different ways. Very often what we'll do is set it up with single sign-on to your organization so that you guys have direct control over who has access, when they have access, and so forth. We can also control access in the platform, and we can help you do that through our project management team or give you access to control it yourself. It really depends on your situation and what's going to be most effective for you. But we can either support you in doing that or you can do it directly. It doesn't matter. But basically, anybody that you give proper access to then has username and access, and password and so forth, credentials to the platform. They can access the system, and they can do that 24/7, 365 from wherever they are.
Great. Okay. And time for one more question here. Does the system work with existing QR codes, or do we have to use ARC's QR codes?
The QR codes that we put on here are unique to ARC. We very often will see, it's very, very common when we see a piece of equipment in the field, it'll have 2 or 3 stickers on it. QR codes are unique. They're basically an address. And so when you scan one, it's just opening an address. In our case, it will open it into our platform. But from inside our platform, you'll remember on those assets, I did have the ability to link to other things, right? So if I open up this particular piece of equipment, this air handler, I've got useful links. I can go out to my CMMS system or my YouTube video. So even though you're starting with our QR code and coming into our platform, you can easily get to others if they don't have a QR code or something like that, barcode or whatever on the platform.
And if you have questions, here's some information for you. You can visit our website, send us an email. There's a request a demo link there. That really is just a great way for you to talk to a team member, explain a little bit about your facility, and learn if there's ways we can help you. But again, if there's any questions we didn't get to, we will reach out individually on those. John, thanks so much. And everybody, thank you so much for attending today. We appreciate it. Have a great day.